The Iranians have officially figured out how to break Donald Trump and nearly end his terms. If you create a crisis that an American president cannot solve, and if you keep that crisis alive long enough, eventually the American people start to blame the president, and you can inflict maximum damage on that president in that way. In 1979, that crisis was the Iran hostage crisis. 52 Americans were held hostage for 444 days, exactly.
What struck me was that Donald Trump is about to become what he never, ever wanted to be, Jimmy Carter.
Yes.
He is being held hostage by Iran. They are holding the Strait of Hormuz hostage. As a result, they're holding the world economy hostage. And it's focused at Donald Trump. And I know from talking to him over the last 24 years, the one person he would never want to be is Jimmy Carter.
I talked to him about Jimmy Carter,
right?
too.
And here we are, and it was all voluntary.
That is brutal. I noticed at the very last second, Scott Jennings is for some reason sitting on this panel listening, and look at the face he's making. He hates to hear the truth, the reality of it.
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right, so in today's episode, we're going to be reacting to the updates on the Iran and US war, right? When this war was first starting, Trump came out to assure his voters, not just his voters, but the whole of America, that this was going to be a very short-lived war and it's going to be ending in a week or so, right? But we're getting to a situation where a lot has been done, a lot has been said, but Trump is still looking like a liar. Is it that he lied, or is it that he came unprepared and underestimating his own opponent?
Right, and when this situation started over in Iran, a lot of people were saying that Trump was delusional because of the victory he had had in Venezuela. But right now, Iran is choosing to give Trump the runaround, and the internet is now classifying it as them giving him the Jimmy Carter treatment, right?
Right. Above all, Iran is refusing to negotiate with Trump, and this is gonna be going very interesting, right? But
and it will go down in history. And one thing rich people care about is legacy. So that being said, guys, let's watch what we prepared for you today, and then you come back and talk about it. You can also consider subscribing if you're new to our channel. Let's watch and then you come back.
Iran is giving Donald Trump the Jimmy Carter treatment, and I could not be happier for him. They said that they will not make a deal with the United States until Donald Trump is out of office. And for those of you who do not know, don't remember, or weren't born yet, in 1979, workers at the American embassy in Tehran were held hostage by Iranian revolutionaries, and they refused to make a deal with then-President Jimmy Carter. It wasn't until the inauguration of Ronald Reagan that they made a deal with him. In fact, that deal was cut on Inauguration Day. So Iran likely is going to Donald Trump, we've played this game before. You should know this. Like, you were literally alive and you think you're going to have us by the short and curlies? Oh, no, no, no. We're going to have you by that little chia pet that's living on the top of your head. And you know this has to hurt Trump's ego because unlike Jimmy Carter, Donald Trump has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Jimmy Carter, you could say, was not the best president the United States has ever had, but he was a good, decent, and kind man. Donald Trump doesn't even have that working for him, and Iran knows that. And Iran knows that he's purely driven by ego, and this is going to drive him absolutely insane and force him to lash out online, further embarrassing himself and the United States. They know how to play him like a violin.
Friendly reminder that Jimmy Carter lost in 1980 because Reagan committed treason by secretly negotiating with Iran to keep the hostage crisis going until after the election.
So the New York Times is reporting that Iran has successfully outsmarted Hegseth and basically tricked him into depleting our military weapons supply. For 5 days last month, Iran launched waves of drones and missiles at our U.S. soldiers at 3 bases in Jordan. They used advanced missiles that were able to just change direction, and then they pummeled our defense systems. And it forced the U.S. to just burn through our Patriot interceptors. When they finally broke through, we lost 3 of our service members, hundreds were injured, and they damaged our aircraft. Hegseth and Trump and Rubio, they all lied about it. And to this day, they're trying to downplay it. Iran has become a much more skilled adversary as this war has progressed, which isn't hard with Hegseth at the helm. They fired the military commanders who actually knew how to strategize. And they got rid of all the people that told them this was never going to work. That's what happens when mediocre men, or in this case, inferior men, are put in charge. So here we are. The nuclear weapon that Iran was building, that's not even the issue now. Iran has choked the world economy by closing the strait. And a high school student taking an AP class could have told them that. We've already lost this war, but Trump, he will never admit it. So it will continue.
The U.S. has reportedly spent more money on its war in Iran than it would cost to rebuild Gaza. Trump's 2026 budget proposal cuts $700 million from the National Park Service. That's about what it costs to fund 20 hours of the disastrous Iran war. How are you going to pay for Medicare for all? I don't know. How did we pay for a war in Iran that costs $1 billion a day? Weird how the money is always there for bombs and never there for hospitals. And now the administration is requesting more money. They've already spent $37 billion according to Hegseth, although experts think that number is actually over $100 billion by now. And now they want $67 billion more. As you can imagine, Congress people's phones are blowing up over this. They're under a lot of pressure to stop it. Let's add to the ruckus. I have an LINK in my bio for you, where you can sign on to a short message pre-written for you about stopping funding for this. This is Win Without Wars petition, and there's a slot for zip codes because that determines who your member of Congress is. Have fun yelling. See you at the link in my bio. Okay, bye.
We are not winning this war in Iran. We went in guns blazing without a plan, and Iranian leadership was ready for us. And they are currently destroying American military bases across the Middle East at such an incredible scale that I don't think we understand the magnitude of the loss. The American military bases in Bahrain and Kuwait and Qatar and Saudi Arabia are among the largest military facilities in the world. These bases have cost us trillions of dollars over multiple decades to build. It has been a huge amount of our military spending over 30 years, and it's just going up in smoke. We've lost radars that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, including one Iran took out that was $1 billion at the most fortified U.S. base in the Middle East with a single missile. A radar that was the backbone of all of our missile defense systems in the Gulf. It's really bad. I'm not sure our military has ever suffered this kind of destruction, but we've also never had such unprepared, unserious, piss-poor leadership before either. The new statistic is this war is costing us $1 billion a day. That's about $42 million an hour, $11,000 a second. And while this administration is telling us we are kicking ass and they're putting out their high-end America fuck yeah propaganda, in the background, they are summoning defense firms to the White House for emergency meetings and asking for more money for the Department of War. After getting an extra $120 billion a year from the big beautiful bill, these people are already asking for another $50 billion. Our military budget is already $1 trillion a year. Where is this money going? Right down the toilet. That's where. Did you vote for this? Do you want this? Or do you maybe want a living wage and healthcare and to be able to afford a home in a safe and secure nation? We're not winning. The US and Israel have powerful bombs that can blow up buildings. But as we know now, most of Iran's military infrastructure and weapons are deep underground where we can't get at them. And it appears that Russia and China are sitting on the sidelines just feeding top-tier satellite intelligence directly to the Iranian government and just tracking our every move. We've started something we have no chance of finishing. We don't have an unlimited supply or an infinite arsenal. We don't even seem to have a goal. The question is, how long do we do this? We're a week in. How much of our resources are we going to spend? And do we plan to add our children's lives to the mix? When asked if we could expect violence on our own shores from this, Trump was like, well, maybe. It's war. That happens. Come on. This war was unnecessary and ill-planned and will not make our country or the world more safe and prosperous. We are not winning. All we are doing is bankrupting ourselves while we create even more enemies and ruin our position in the world. You want to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse? Well, here it is.
It is now 5 months after this war with Iran started, and here's the truth. Both sides are stuck. And both sides are lying about it. Start with the Strait of Hormuz. Trump said this week that it's open, but it's not. Shipping data right now shows only 8 vessels transiting the strait. 8. That's not an open waterway. That's a trickle. Iran and Oman are reportedly in talks to manage the strait, and the talks are described as being at a critical point, meaning overall that nothing is resolved. Now here's the real holdup. Both countries are demanding compensation from each other before they'll even sit down to talk. Iran says the U.S. owes compensation before the Strait of Hormuz reopens, and Trump responded by saying the U.S. will require compensation from Iran for, quote, past misdeeds. Neither side is backing off that demand. And that's the actual reason talks are frozen right now. Not a security issue, but a money standoff. Meanwhile, Iran just reshuffled its military leadership. Supreme Leader Khamenei announced 6 senior appointments this week. And this comes right after Iran named a new national security chief, a Revolutionary Guards commander, who has openly expressed skepticism about negotiating with the U.S. at all. Read between the lines. Tehran is now putting hardliners in charge the exact moment talks are stalling. That's not a coincidence. That's a signal. And Trump's own strategy is shifting too. Reporting out this morning says he's pivoting back to sanctions because his other approaches to ending this war were fizzling out. He also dismissed Iran's compensation demand outright. So now we have 2 leaders who each think the other side owes them money and nobody's moving. And the human cost is still happening in real time. A cargo ship was just attacked in the Red Sea with casualties reported. So this war didn't just pause because the news cycle moved on to Fauci and domestic policies. It is still very active. And markets are already pricing in that this war drags on. Silver just hit its highest price since June. Oil jumped 5%. And investors are treating this like a war that isn't ending anytime soon. So that's where we actually are, people. No open strait despite what's being claimed. No talks because both sides want to get paid first. A more hardline military leadership in Tehran. And a U.S. strategy that's openly admitted to be struggling. That's the real state of this Iran war. Don't listen to mainstream media. Listen to the facts.
They're calling Trump having to hide from Iran in that catering cart Operation Orange Chicken.
Well, Iran is now saying they will continue negotiations with the United States on January the 21st, 2029. Because that will be the first day that Donald Trump will be out of office. They are saying they are never going to negotiate with Donald Trump again, and this is making him angry. So he's on the internet railing about Iran asking for compensation and claiming that it was never mentioned in any of their negotiations or meetings, not once. Even though it was literally paragraph 6 of the Memorandum of Understanding that Donald Trump himself signed, and everyone else in the administration talked about the $300 billion for Iran extensively. And now he's saying this is the first time this has came up, which explains, while Iran is saying we're not negotiating again until the day after you leave office. Thanks.
Okay, just watch this. Donald Trump lets his own go, right in the middle of the Oval Office, on live television. The most shocking display of his erratic behavior. Viral clips show him at the Resolute desk acting exactly like he pooped himself in public. You hear the sound a few seconds in, faces behind him begin to distort, and within the 50-second clip, he kicks everyone out of the room. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. stands right there as it happens. These moments racked up tens of millions of views. The same man who called Abdul al-Sayed full of shit is the one doing this. Meanwhile, Donald Trump keeps falling asleep in the Oval Office, waking himself up only to drift right back off while people speak around him in a rather senile manner. Every once in a while, he stirs, then collapses again, sleeping through everything as if nothing matters. This is the stark reality. A president so far gone he cannot stay awake or control his own body in the most important room in America. The irony hits hard. He is simply not present and not in control.
Iran is completely done negotiating with the Orange Clown. I don't know, guys. I'm starting to think that maybe putting an idiotic Fox News host in charge of the world's largest military was maybe a bad idea. Also, maybe sending 2 corrupt and clueless real estate developers to do high-stakes international negotiations instead of, professionals? Maybe that was a bad idea too. And with Iran now fully in control of both of the straits, we are headed towards an unbelievable global economic disaster. And there is absolutely nothing that the psychopath with dementia can do to get himself out of this mess. He can't even successfully attack them anymore because we don't have enough missiles. And we're not going to get any more anytime soon because you know why? Because of China. Oh, you think China's just been hanging out this whole time? You thought they wouldn't get their big sleeping tiger revenge against the Orange Clown for all those tariffs? Nah, they're refusing to sell the US rare earth minerals. And do you know what you need to build weapons? Rare earth minerals. Without those minerals, you don't have lasers, you don't have radar, you don't have missiles, you don't have air defense interceptors, you don't have nothing. But you know who China is selling weapons to? Iran. And that's how you play the game while the Orange Clown is eating the instruction manual. And now here's the thing, this is going to be bad. But on the bright side, Iran did promise to remove the orange clown, if you know what I mean. And while they haven't successfully been able to do that, the next best thing is absolutely destroying his presidency until the midterms. They're taking him out in the classic Jimmy Carter way. And this will go down as one of the biggest and most embarrassing geopolitical failures of all time. This is such a perfect ending for the Orange Clown because he has failed at everything he has ever tried to do his entire life. So at least he's staying consistent.
Disaster in the war. J.D. Vance says we're only in the middle of the game. Iran has struck another ship in the Strait of Hormuz, and they just put out a list of demands that is as long as the day is long. So they're going back to more demands and ready to give up less. So Israel talked Trump into those 12 days of strikes that happened recently again. CNN is reporting everyone in the administration was against it, but he went with Israel's guidance instead. And what wound up happening is Iran dug in even more. Now we are much further away from peace. Do not believe the hype about it's a couple of days away. That is nothing but a sheer lie. The Iranians are making it very clear now that we are very distant from peace.
In this case, but look, I mean, this is a complicated legacy. I think it plays out and will continue to be complicated. How that plays out, but I do think that.
So guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about these videos you just played here. You know, I don't understand why Americans are very angry right now, because at the end of the day, Trump got America into a war they didn't win, you know. And for a lot of countries, it's good when you participate in something that makes you look good and powerful
and even stronger. Right. You know, there was something I saw on the internet today, and it was an African advising other Africans just about the importance of knowing how to protect yourself in order for other world-class countries to respect you, right? And they gave an example of how right now China is respected by American government because they were able to build up their defense systems, and they were able to help nearly more than 50% of their people get out of poverty in order for them to be able to afford being classified as a first world country, you know. And this just reminds me of how the situation in Iran is looking with America. If Iran manages to come out on top of this situation, I think this is Iran launching itself into becoming a first world country.
Not even a first world country necessarily, but a capable opponent. Right?
Yeah.
And another thing you have to talk about is the fact that a lot of Americans are complaining about being able to afford good healthcare, being able to afford just certain benefits in America, and yet with just Trump's administration and the calculated mistake that he didn't really think about when he was going into war with Iran, they're now questioning why is it that we needed to go through all this process only to come out after all is said and done. We've wasted a lot of resources. We've wasted a good amount. America spent a good amount of years building its military capability to what it is or what it was right now. And what they boosted when it came to the world stage is the fact that they had better military equipment, they had better military position, but right now it seems like a lot of it has gone down the drain, and Americans are not happy about this, because at the end of the day, you're looking at what have they lost at the end of all this? They've lost a lot of military power, they've lost a lot of military equipment, and kind of their reputation also has been lost, right? It's kind of in the balance right now, because they went on and did something that they were not sure they could win. The situation with Venezuela, that was very well understandable, and
actually it gave America it gave America strong points in the world stage, and right now, of course, they still are a powerful country, right? And none of any of the 54 African states can think of going up against America.
I'm African, but I can admit that.
Right, with no shame. But right now, countries that are militarily capable like Iran now have or are seeing a chance they can go up against a country like America.
And also, guys, you talk about the taxpayer dollars that was collected in order to make this become into reality, right? Because you tell me building one of the strongest armies in the world is not an easy joke, right? It requires a lot of a lot of resources, both human resource and financial resource, right? So Americans were taxed heavily, and a lot of it was going into building their military. But right now, people are feeling like instead of that happening, it would have been better if the taxpayer dollars was put into Medicaid, if it was put into helping Americans become actually better in life and helping the economic situation of America, right? Because you find that there's some sectors that were neglected a little bit in order for their military to be able to be built up to the point that it was. But now, right now, what does all this mean for America in general, you know? And some people are asking, is this the beginning of the downfall, or is this the downfall of the greatest nation, you know, the most powerful office in the world? I don't know, right? And people are also questioning Trump and the decisions he's making, especially because after a lot of clips came out of him sleeping in, meetings. And personally, I would say, I feel like that comes with age. I remember when Trump used to make a lot of fun when it was Biden's, administration. And he really used to talk down on Biden, right? And right now it's happening to him, and people are losing, hope, right? Because they're used to seeing a very strong Trump. But personally, I say that comes with age, and people are not ready to, to see that. And so,
right. And personally, I do feel like it does not only go for America, but all over the world. People who are old and above the age of 60 should not be allowed to run for presidency, because someone might sign something they don't understand, all because they can't keep their eyes awake.
Right. And who knows if right now he's even fully in charge of the
decision making.
Because if you look at him, and there's a lot of talks out there of him not being healthy, you ask yourself, is he the one who's responsible for every single decision that comes out of that office,
Yeah. And also, right now with the Iran giving him the runaround, as we said, rich people love to leave legacies behind. And just as Jimmy Carter is remembered for that situation in Iran, Trump will also be remembered for this situation, because his intentions going into this situation was that he would finish it as quickly as he finished with Venezuela and come out as the only president who could land into people's sovereign countries and take out their leaders.
Impose their will.
Exactly, and take out their leaders. And that is why their first action in Iran was to end top leadership in Iran, thinking that they could implant people who they chose, not knowing that Iran was very, very prepared and ready to face them off, but guys,
yeah, guys, let us know what you think about this episode. Also consider subscribing if it's your first time here, and we'll catch you on our next episode. Thank you so much for always tuning in.